Hi there folks, my name's Ryan. Welcome to Ryan's Kitchen. Today we're going to be making lasagna with vegetables, and I'm going to show you everything that we're going to need for that. First off, we're going to need some lasagna noodles. I went with the oven ready variety just to save on a bit of time. You won't have to boil it. If you want to get the regular style noodles, you can just follow the directions on the package and parboil them before we go ahead and build the lasagna. You're going to need some kind of cheese. I got Cracker Barrel extra old, give it lots of good flavor. And your favorite pasta sauce, I went with President's Choice, spinach and cheese. You can get whatever you like for that really. I went with a pre-made ready pasta sauce, again just to make things a bit easier. You're gonna want, I went with extra lean ground beef, less oil. You don't really have to drain it as much, and it's a bit healthier. And then for vegetables, you're gonna want a couple of zucchinis. I got an eggplant and some cremini or button mushrooms. That's most of the stuff we're gonna need to build the actual lasagna. I'm gonna serve it with some garlic toast, so I just got some regular brown whole wheat bread, and I didn't have any garlic lying around, and I get lazy and don't like chopping it, so I got some minced, roasted actually, garlic in the jar already. You're also going to need a bit of butter for that, and I got some tender greens I'll show you later just for a bit of a side salad that we're going to throw together with whatever you might already have in your fridge, just to serve with the lasagna when that's ready. So you're also going to need, I'm using a 9" by 9" square baking pan to build the lasagna in, and some sort of frying pan just to cook off the ground beef before building the lasagna. Okay, so let's get started. I should mention this dish will serve between 4 to 8 people depending on how hungry you are. And I picked up all of the ingredients at No Frills in Renfrew. Cost me about $30. So first step, we're going to cook off the ground beef. So I'll bring you over to the stove for that. So for the ground beef, I've turned the frying pan on medium high on this stove, about 6.5 setting, and I've let it warm up a bit, about 3 minutes to get it a bit hot before we go ahead and throw the ground beef in. So you'll need a knife just to open up your ground beef if it comes in a tube like that. Otherwise you still might need it to open up the styrofoam package of that. You won't need any oil for this since the ground beef has some fat in it, even though it is extra lean. It shouldn't stick to your pan the way that it is. So you can go ahead and slice that right open, drop the whole thing into your pan, and you want to hear that nice sizzle. That means your pan is nice and hot already for it. So with a wooden spoon, we're going to break this up into smaller manageable pieces, about this size, a couple inches big, just so that it can transfer all of that nice heat to our beef. So with that, we can let it sizzle for 30 seconds to a minute before mixing it up again, because we want to get the beef nice and brown on the bottom before we go playing with it. After 2 to 3 minutes, your beef should start to look like this. You can see the browning coming up from the bottom. As I said, medium high is going to be just the right temperature so that the beef will brown. It won't be boiling in there. You can see it's not releasing all of its moisture, and then it's also not so high that it's going to burn. So that's right in the sweet spot, and after we've let it brown up a bit on the bottom, we can mix it up a bit, as well as break it up into slightly smaller pieces. At this stage, if you wanted, you could add a bit of salt as well, just to bring out the flavor of the beef. I tend to put just a pinch, but that's entirely optional. And like I said, we don't want to disturb it too much because we want that nice browning action on the beef. So once it's flipped and broken slightly more, you can leave it again for another few minutes to continue cooking. And as that's frying away, I'm just keeping an eye on it to make sure that it is at the right temperature where it's cooking well, not burning. And I'm also breaking up any of the remaining larger pieces into smaller, manageable pieces to make sure that it cooks evenly. At this point, you're going to want to wash your utensils that have the raw meat on them. You don't want to reuse that once it's done. That smells good. So that's fine to turn off now. So we're going to get all of our vegetables ready to build the lasagna now. I've already gone ahead and washed the zucchini and the eggplant. I'm going to show you what we're going to do with the mushrooms. So I've got colander ready. I'm just going to dump them into the colander in the sink. Just because there might be dirt left over on the mushrooms, we're going to use cold water, give them a nice rinse, rubbing off any potential dirt that's on there. Make for sure that the beef is cooked. You know, you can just break open one of the larger pieces, make sure that there's no pink on the inside. If there is a bit of pink, don't be afraid to turn that burner back on and give it another minute or two, whatever's necessary to finish cooking that beef. So with the vegetables, while we have the mushrooms draining and drying off a little bit, we're going to cut these we're going to cut all of these in half, and then we're going to slice them into thin slices so that we can use those to layer to build our lasagna in with the vegetables. So we're going to start with the eggplant. Get yourself a sharp knife. Don't be afraid to use a sharp knife. You're less likely to slip while cutting if the knife is nice and sharp. Just watch your fingers. So with this, I got a straighter eggplant works better for this. The more oblong it is, the more awkward the shapes are going to be. So I kind of got a long one like this. So I'm just going to cut it into half lengthwise like that, and then stand one end up on its end and slice off almost as small as you can go, about a centimeter. Just like that is perfect amount of thickness, and we're going to do the same with the zucchini to build our lasagnas. So I've just got you can use a plate or a bowl on the side here to put my veggies once I'm done with them. So I'm doing the same thing with the zucchinis and just going to cut just the tips off, cut them both in half. Take one half section at a time, stand it up, cut about a centimeter, maybe a little bit more thick slice out of it. You should be able, depending on the size of your zucchini, get 4 or 5 slices out of that. So something like this is going to be perfect. You can go a little bit thinner, that's kind of up to you, that's personal preference. So I'm going to finish cutting these. Again, if this gets a little difficult to do, don't be afraid to just cut the zucchini a little bit shorter. It'll be easier to manage to cut into smaller slices. The goal here is just to get thin-ish guys. We're gonna do about the same amount of thickness, maybe a little bit thicker, about 1.5 centimeters. Just little slices like this that we're going to use to layer in as well. I'm keeping all of my veggies in one place on this plate, just so they're all together, save on dishes, and I can grab them easily when we're ready to start building. So we've got our veggies all ready. I'm going to go ahead and just open the pasta sauce so that's ready when we need it. Put that aside. Now we're going to grate our cheese. So for the cheese, we're going to be generous. We're going to take about 1/3 to 1/2 of this big brick, and I found, just to add some color, some orange cheddar as well. I'm just gonna throw a little chunk of that in the mix. And we're gonna grate that all together and just put that into a bowl for now. Now this is a great time to mention, if you have any food restrictions or allergies, absolutely don't be afraid to substitute any of the ingredients. So now that we have all of our cheese grated and ready, and I've gotten our ground beef into a dish just to make it easier to put together. That stuff looks nice. I've tasted it to make sure it's good already, and we have all of our vegetables ready here with our sauce. And open up our noodles. We'll have everything we need to start building that lasagna. So to start the lasagna off, we're going to put a few dollops of sauce in the bottom just so nothing sticks too much, just to add some moisture in the bottom. Spread that around. And we're going to put some vegetables on top of that. So we're going to layer some zucchini. You can just layer that kind of loosely, doesn't have to cover the entire surface. However that fits, just like that. And then we're gonna put some of our eggplant on top of that. Spread that around however it fits. I think we're going to need more eggplant. And since we have the little mushrooms, it doesn't have to be a complete layer like that. As we put the mushrooms in, we can spread them around, and that'll just kind of fill in all those little crevices. Okay. Now, with our ground beef, we're just gonna spread that around. I'm gonna do probably about like 2.5 layers on this pan with the amount of ingredients we have. We'll just kind of see as we go how it plays out. I've added about half to a third of that beef. That package was 500 grams, I believe, to begin with. So that's just looking like this now. And we're gonna go ahead and add a layer of noodles. The typical package, they don't quite fit in my 9x9 pan. You might be using a slightly larger pan. You might have slightly smaller noodles. But if they are a little too long, I'm just gonna break the ends off, set them aside. We might be able to fill in some gaps with those. Just be careful to try to not break them lengthwise like that, like I've done. So I've taken off 2 to 3 centimeters just so that all fits in there. One nice layer, just like that. We're gonna cover the pasta noodles in a nice generous layer this time of our pasta sauce. A couple spoonfuls on each noodle should do the trick. That's what that's gonna look like after that. Now we can go ahead and add about half of our cheese. Nice covered layer, cover up all the tomato sauce. And that's starting to look really good. Once that's spread out evenly in a nice layer, it'll look something like that. We can go ahead with the next layer. So I'm just gonna squeeze that down a little bit, make a little more room in the pan for us. Mushrooms. This is all gonna settle a little bit once it's cooking in the oven, so don't be afraid to build it up and get all those nice ingredients in there. And some more of the ground beef. We're actually going to just put the rest in. That's almost all of our veggies that we've used. I have just this much eggplant left, and I'll just toss in just the remainder of these mushrooms, fill in these gaps. And don't be afraid to get in there and use your hands, as long as you're washing your hands throughout the process. Keep your hands clean, of course. Once we have that beef spread out, we're going to cover that in another layer of the lasagna noodles. If you're having trouble snapping off the ends, you might want to try a knife, but you might have the same results. hopefully your noodles just fit your pan to begin with. Now once that's settled in there, we're going to cover that with a bunch more of our tomato pasta sauce. Spread that all out. Not going to use quite all of it, just whatever covers our noodles with a nice good layer will be sufficient. If you can fill in any gaps, go ahead and do that. Okay, so that's getting pretty full. I think it should all fit. We're going to take the rest of our cheese, cover that up. I should have mentioned before we started building this, you can go ahead and preheat your oven 375. Have that warming up in the meantime, so when this is built and done and ready, we can just go ahead and pop that right in the oven. And there we go. That's our lasagna ready for the oven. Let's go ahead and put that in. So now that our lasagna is built and all ready and our oven's preheated, we can fire that in on the middle rack. And we're going to turn the oven down to 325. At the same time, we're going to set a timer for 45 minutes and check it after that. See you in a bit. So our timer's gone off right there we go, on time. So since mine was poking up a bit over the edge, it's curling up, so I'm just pushing it down pretty aggressively actually with a spoon, just to seat everything down flat to fill in all of those gaps that were kind of created when I layered it. So we're just going to push this down level. Okay, so our lasagna looks great. The cheese is actually, so I added a bit more cheese on top just since I messed it up a little bit squishing with the spoon. So that's what it looks like after that more 20 minutes, and we're gonna set that on the oven and let it cool while we get some garlic toast ready. So for the garlic toast, it's gonna be pretty straightforward. I'm gonna take some slices of bread. I've got my butter here and my garlic ready. Just gonna open that up. We're just gonna spread a little bit of garlic on each, however much you like, on each slice of bread. Just do just enough to cover most of it. And then once that's on there, I'm going to give it another nice layer of butter on top of that. Just like that. Try to get it to all the edges. Get it nice and crispy without drying out. And then we're just lining those up on a cookie sheet or baking pan. Meanwhile, our lasagna is going to cool on the stove somewhere, just to make it easier to cut when we're ready to eat, so it doesn't fall all apart on us. It'll firm up a little bit as it's cooling. Okay, so once that's ready, we're gonna put that in the oven. We'll set the timer for 10 minutes. And we'll just leave the lasagna to cool a bit more in the meantime. Okay. So my timer's gone off. The toast isn't quite ready yet since the oven isn't super hot. So I put it back on for another 4 minutes on the timer. In the meantime, I've started setting up our plates. I took this kale, chard, and spinach that I got. It's about $4, I think. And then just whatever vegetables I had lying around in the fridge. I just have some red pepper and cucumber that I put on top. And I've got some, whatever, you know, use whatever, obviously your favorite dressing. I just got this basil parmesan President's Choice brand at the No Frills. It was on sale, so I'm going to use that. Okay. Garlic toast is done. I almost forgot we have a garlic intolerant person in the household, so I just gave them some cheese on theirs instead. Looks lovely. And now we can take our lasagna and start cutting it. For this, you're going to want a nice sharp knife, and or a good serrated knife might help as well. So for the size of this, we're going to cut it into 6. You know, it all depends on what size of slice you'd personally like. So I'm just going to cut it in half down the middle. Be careful not to burn yourself. I'm also trying as well as I can not to cut up the bottom of the pan, obviously. And you're going to want to free the edges as well. That's going to be important when we start scooping it out. There's no wrong answers here. It's going to taste just the same on your plate. Let's see, that's where the serrated might come in handy if you're having trouble cutting through the different layers. And I'm just going to divide that into 3 this way, and we'll have some nice portions. Okay, now that we've made sure everything's cut through, we're just going to go ahead and plate this up. Look at that. And nice corner piece. And then we'll throw the garlic bread on there. And there you have it. Now you get to eat and enjoy. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, stay safe, miigwech. Bye now, see you next time.